I have some updated information about freedom of speech and freedom of the press in Costa Rica. Welcome back to the channel. This is Charmel Roussel, living in Grecia, sharing information about moving to Costa Rica, retiring in Costa Rica, and living in Costa Rica. So if you're like me and you're thinking about moving abroad, either for a part of your retirement or all of your retirement, or just moving abroad for any reason, you may wonder about the country that you're moving to, about the stability of its democracy and the stability of its economy. I know that was a concern of mine, so I did quite a bit of research, and one of the reasons that I chose Costa Rica is because of its relative stable democracy and stable economy compared to the rest of Central America and many other places in the world. So recently I was reading in some of the online newsletters that I subscribe to, and I read about some recent issues concerning freedom of the press and freedom of speech and transparency of government information. So there were a couple of cases that were decided by a court. It's called the Constitutional Court, and those cases were decided in favor of journalists. And the cases concerned violation of freedom of the press and right to the access of information. So in these cases that were decided in favor of the journalists, there were complaints filed against the executive branch of the government regarding freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And in one case, the Costa Rican president, Rodrigo Chavez, raised his voice and silenced one of the journalists when the journalist asked a question. So I'm assuming that this was in a news conference situation, and the journalist asked a question that President Chavez was not particularly fond of, and so he attempted to silence the journalist and also raised his voice. Now, in another instance, the journalist, there were two of them, they were surrounded by bodyguards from the Presidential Protection Unit when they attempted to ask a question of two different people. It was the then Minister of Presidency, Laura Fernandez, and again also President Chavez. So evidently they attempted to ask some questions, and the president and the minister did not appreciate those questions, and so they had their bodyguards surround these journalists and also muted one of their microphones. So when these complaints were filed, again, the court decided in favor of the journalist because access to public information is enshrined in Article 30 of the Constitution of Costa Rica. Now, in one of the cases, the court ruled that the state had to pay costs, damages, and losses incurred by the journalists. So these were two cases that really set important precedents regarding journalistic work and access to information at official events of the executive branch of the government. So evidently there have been some recent instances that indicate that the tensions between President Chavez and the public are increasing. There's been some cases of confrontational messaging that was outside of the formal communication channels that the government uses. Also, the president and some of his cabinet members participated in a march against the Attorney General in Costa Rica, and there have been some cases in which the president vetoed some bills, and that contributed to some polarization in the country of Costa Rica. So I was happy to see the results of these cases that were filed that were determined in favor of freedom of speech, freedom of information, freedom of the press, transparency of the government at the highest level. I like to see those things in any place that I decide to reside, because I think it indicates the human rights and the civil rights that people have, especially women and minorities. And I think it indicates to what degree and the top level of government uses its authority to silence people and to silence the press. Whenever the heads of government have something to hide, then they often try to silence journalists, which is why freedom of the press is such an important freedom for us to safeguard in places like Costa Rica and the United States and all over the world. So if you have additional information or alternative information, please add it in the comment section. Pura Vida, ciao.